Hey everyone, it's Blake, and we have made it. It is King of the Ring 2021. What a build, and hopefully the tournament lives up to the expectations. But before we dive into King of the Ring, let's first look at some noteworthy things before the show, which we are here on Sunday. So before we jump into King of the Ring, there was some significant things going on with our competition. As you can see, the headline: Chris Jericho is now the new AEW World Champion. He gets the win at Fyter Fest, and we will look at that card here, which I already took a peek at it. Let me say, AEW must have made this a very women's wrestling themed show, because there are a lot of women's matches here on AEW Fyter Fest. Gets a 65 overall. I'm thinking our King of the Ring is going to do much better than that, and at least I hope it does. But if we look, Jericho is the new champion. If you go up and down the list here, it's a very interesting card, and some of the matches not so great. Red Velvet defeating Julia Hart, Riho defeating Abaddon, Britt Baker Britt Baker defeats Leva Bates to retain the AEW Women's title. We go on down here. We've got Ethan Page and SCU defeating Colt Cabana and the Dark Order. Another women's match here with these four in particular. That actually looks like a pretty good match. It was 62. Those are four very good competitors. So Hikaru Shida defeating Serena Deeb. That was another good women's match. And then we sort of lead into some of the bigger matches. Looks like the Pinnacle and Inner Circle still feuding there. We've got Andrade and Jon Moxley teaming up against the Gun Club. That's an interesting match. But just having these two on the same side, pretty interesting there, right? Young Bucks getting the win in a triple threat. So they're apparently copying our triple threat tag team championship match we're going to have at King of the Ring. Young Bucks retain there, and then Miro defeating Darby Allin to retain the AEW TNT title. And then it's Jericho winning the AEW World title from Kenny Omega and MJF in a triple threat there. So that's something. So Chris Jericho back on top in AEW. Pretty interesting, I thought, to look at that and kind of see what happened there. So just wanted to note that before we jump into King of the Ring, we at least have something we can compare it to as we do look at our competition in AEW. And it looks like they had a big title change at their particular big event. And we will see. As we know, we don't necessarily have our world champions are not in action on King of the Ring because it's mostly based on the tournament. But we do know that AEW trying to hotshot the title to Chris Jericho, maybe to see if they can beat King of the Ring. But with a 65 rating, I don't like their chances, because I think we're going to have a fantastic pay-per-view. And let's see if I'm correct as we do jump into King of the Ring 2021. And we kick off King of the Ring with the pre-show. And as you can see here, we do have a mixture of SmackDown versus Raw, and I'm going to do that probably for a lot of these double-branded shows just to see what's there. Maybe, there's some intriguing chemistry notes and all of that that we could use for future drafts and trades and those sort of things. So we're mixing and matching here. Viking Raiders are on SmackDown. Gable and Benjamin are on Raw. So we're just using this as sort of have some different sort of matchups to see if there's anything we can use for future, storylines and draft notes and that kind of stuff. So that's why you're going to see a lot of Raw versus SmackDown matches, just to add sort of a fresh dynamic and seeing what possibilities may be out there with all that. So you'll notice that as a theme that we have on the double-branded shows. So obviously with King of the Ring being one, that's the case here. But it is the Viking Raiders getting the win over Gable and Benjamin, 8-12. The Viking experience gets it done. Good tag team notes here with two teams that are pretty good from a team perspective, but it is the Viking Raiders coming out victorious in this one. And another pre-show match, Shayna Baszler on SmackDown defeats Mandy Rose from Raw, 4:59, using the Kimura, 39, not great here, but really the main goal for this was to just really continue to push Shayna Baszler forward. She's been on a dominant streak. She's won a lot of matches thus far in our series. So we were just trying to continue that theme, and we didn't have a spot for it on the actual pay-per-view, but we wanted to make sure we grabbed a win for her here at King of the Ring as she gets that on the pre-show. And in our pre-show main event, I guess you could say, 59 here for a nice six-man tag with Angel Garza and the Dirty Dogs getting a win over Jeff Hardy, R-Truth, and Cedric Alexander. Garza gets the pin over Alexander with the wing clipper. pretty even, I guess you could say, really, when we look at all the performance ratings. Jeff has the best one, but pretty solid across the board when you look at this. So I'm okay with it. I mean, it's a pre-show match, and we're mixing these three from Raw, these three from SmackDown. So just one of those, interesting dynamics, and we wanted to find something for these in particular to do on this show, and so we just put them all together in a nice little pre-show match. So that is the pre-show, and now we jump into the main King of the Ring card, and as you will see, it starts off in a pretty big way. Wow. Well, I will tell you, this is unbelievable because there is no chance that I thought that we were getting a 100 rating. 100. A perfect segment. Oh my goodness. This is unbelievable. I don't even know. Like, I've played this game for years now. Like, with all the different ones, I'm sure there have been different ratings that I've had, but I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the last time I've had a 100. I probably did, and maybe I could go back and find it. And look, I'm probably maybe exaggerating. Like, I'm sure I had a promo with someone that was just really over in one of like the Attitude Era saves or something like that. But I am just blown away right now. This Roman Reigns and Mick Foley, a 100, unreal. Well, let's actually get to what this is for. Clearly, we wanted to start this show off like this. And clearly we had a really good idea because it worked to perfection, quite literally. Roman Reigns, who we saw at the end of SmackDown, said that he was giving Mick Foley another chance, and this was going to be at King of the Ring, and that if him did not show up, if he was not delivered, there would be consequences, and Roman Reigns ended with an emphatic or else. So that is going to be the setup here, and once again, Roman Reigns giving Foley a last chance. Foley says he cannot deliver him, and that leads to Roman Reigns doing something that is clearly not good, and we will see that in the next segment. But, I mean, this is just incredible. I want to just, do we want to just run this segment for the next, 30 minutes of this video? Let's just stay on this. Forget the entire King of the Ring. We'll recap it on the next video. I'm kidding. But 100, this is just phenomenal. So, wow, I don't even know what to say. Roman Reigns has been the star of this series thus far in the, how many shows we've had through June, but he is clearly at another level right now with a 100. Roman Reigns and Mick Foley delivering, even with Foley being underwhelming. Look at all of this. Well, we know there's nowhere to go but down from here, but that's okay. But as I said, it is leading to something. And Roman Reigns said or else, and this is where it begins. 76 here. We did not get a 100. Can we go back? Can we go back to the 100? But nonetheless, Roman Reigns comes out of this looking great. He is the absolute star and stud of this show right now. And he attacks R-Truth, basically just destroys R-Truth. And remember, Roman Reigns was saying or else, and clearly this is what he had in mind. He is now starting to go from making requests and demands to actual violence, and that is not good for Mick Foley and SmackDown. Because I didn't really set it up this way, but if you just think of how this could play out, if you're trying to visualize it, what I wanted to do was sort of have the Usos bring R-Truth out, because as we saw, R-Truth was just in the main event of the pre-show, so we wanted to sort of transition from that into this. So that was kind of the plan here, so you can just visualize it that way if you want. And then you just have Roman Reigns just completely destroy this guy, while Mick Foley, he's up on the ramp. He's really not happy about this at all. But that was obviously what Roman Reigns meant when he said or else. He is now starting to actually take out his aggression rather than just sitting back, making his demands at the head of the table. He is now angry. He's pissed off. And unfortunately for R-Truth, he seems to be someone that just was not in the wrong place at the wrong time, because Roman Reigns is very unhappy. And when Roman Reigns, our perfect 100 star, is unhappy, that is not good. So a great start to this King of the Ring. And we know it's mostly built around this tournament, but Roman Reigns was not waiting. He is a very impatient man at this point, and I could not have asked for a better start for this King of the Ring. And speaking of, we start off the actual King of the Ring tournament, a 71 here. Daniel Bryan advancing to the semifinals with the win over Sami Zayn. Goes about 15 minutes, so that's a pretty lengthy match for someone now like Daniel Bryan, who could have multiple matches left in this tournament. So that's significant there. How do we book this? We called it in the ring, given the psychology for these two, a pretty open match. And so, yeah, that was sort of the goal with these two in particular. But Daniel Bryan, a great match here. We'll take it, a 71, getting the victory. And, boy, this show has just been off to a great start. And I am thrilled because that gives me a lot of excitement now moving forward to see how the rest of the show goes. But Daniel Bryan in the semifinals getting the win over Sami Zayn. And after that, we get a great promo from Kevin Owens, who, of course, we were not going to script Kevin Owens. As we know, Kevin Owens versus Sheamus, that is our main event on tomorrow night's edition of Raw. Steve Austin, our general manager for Raw, announced it after they had the time limit draw for the U.S. title. Now they will decide once again in a last man standing match. And Kevin Owens, his quest for the gold continues, and we will see if he can come out victorious here in another shot at the United States title. Last man standing match, Kevin Owens and Sheamus. That's our championship match and main event for tomorrow night on Raw. And a superb job here from Kevin Owens. A lot of green thus far, though. We had the very light blue, and that's when you know you're doing something right. So this has been a terrific start to the pay-per-view. And it continues here with, boy, look at this. Seth Rollins and Ricochet, 73. So this gets a better rating than Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn. I've got to say I'm a little surprised by that, but I think it's because Seth Rollins is so over right now. I think when we look at it, and we'll look at Seth a bit more when we do our end of June wrap-up video. But Seth and Ricochet go 15 minutes here. Curb Stomp gets the win. So Seth advances to the semifinals. Ricochet benefiting from having a hot new move. We've seen that in several of his matches thus far. How do we book this? We didn't really add anything. We just had, usual scripted beforehand. Seth was the win, regular match. So really, really solid here. So 2 for 2 in the King of the Ring thus far, as Seth Rollins will advance, and that sets up one of our semifinal matches already. We know it's going to be Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins on one side of the bracket. So just the roll continues right now on this pay-per-view. Let's see if it can keep going. It goes down a little bit here with a 53. Apollo Crews, as we know, our Intercontinental Champion. Just a little highlight package for him, showing all the different things he can do. Apollo's been in a bit of a holding pattern until we get past King of the Ring here. We've got plans for him because he is our Intercontinental Champion, but there just was not really a lot for him to do. He did have his title defense on the previous SmackDown against Cedric Alexander, but we just wanted to keep Apollo active, and so we give him a little highlight video here to show that he is our Intercontinental Champ. And it continues here on the tournament, but surprisingly, only a 66. AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. It's AJ Styles advancing to the semis. He gets the win in 12:08, and clearly this did not go according to plan because both off their game here. You didn't want that because, as we've seen, let's see how we did this. We had this as storytelling marked, and we also just made it an open match. But one of the things we've noticed is in Nakamura matches, we've seen a lot of different things, which AJ also being penalized here for declining physical ability. But we've seen this long list on really most of Nakamura's matches in this series. Penalized for holding back, inconsistency, low morale, poor use of slow and steady, declining physical ability. So we're seeing a lot of that with Nakamura matches. So I'm really curious what I'm going to decide to do with him moving forward because we're just not getting a whole lot from his matches. And I think it's just a lot of those attributes, which we can probably fix the morale thing. I need to look at that and actually see what he's upset about. But that is something that, we've got to make some decisions on how we're going to use Nakamura moving forward. But what we do know is he's not going to be moving forward in the King of the Ring because AJ Styles advances to the semifinals. So he is moving along there. Before we get to the final quarterfinal match, Bianca Belair, an interview with Pat McAfee, who we're using as our resident interviewer since he's not on commentary for this show. Bianca, once again, we've seen the bickering back and forth between Bianca and Charlotte Flair, and we continue that here because we know that Charlotte lost the number one contenders match on SmackDown against Asuka, so everything seemed to be setting up Bianca versus Charlotte. Not the case because Asuka is now the number one contender for the SmackDown Women's title, and you had Bianca continue to play that up here after Charlotte had been running her mouth. So that was the basis behind this promo. We wanted to get our SmackDown Women's Champion on this show in a little bit of a capacity, even though she's not wrestling. So Bianca with a promo here, benefiting from being Flavor of the Month. We also get a 62, so we'll take that. Perfectly fine. And we wrap up the quarterfinals of the King of the Ring. A 62, Cesaro advances over Mustafa Ali in 12-11 using the sharpshooter. Gets the crowd buzzing. If we look at what we did here, we tried for Steal the Show, and we did want to keep Mustafa Ali strong, and you will know pretty quickly why that's the case. But Cesaro is the one advancing on, so now we're set in our King of the Ring semifinal matchups. It is going to be Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins and Cesaro versus AJ Styles. So I fully expect both those two matches to deliver. They may not hit the Roman Reigns 100, but they should do pretty well, I think. So Cesaro advances. Unfortunately for Cesaro, he gets attacked after the match because in a segment that gets a 59, Mustafa Ali realized the huge opportunity he had. Cesaro celebrating his win, and Mustafa Ali basically just snaps, beats down Cesaro, and leaves him laying, of course, adding in the intrigue now. How is Cesaro going to fare in his match against AJ Styles? Because he's clearly not going to be at 100%. So that was the goal here, to add that little wrinkle in. That adds a little bit more intrigue into that particular semifinal match. So even though Cesaro gets the victory, unfortunately, he gets beat down afterwards, and we will see how that impacts him heading into the semifinals. And in one of our, oh my goodness, wow. Well, you know what I was about to say. I was about to say in one of our non-King of the Ring matches, I don't even know how to respond. Rhea Ripley suffers a torn Achilles. Oh my goodness. The brutality, no pun intended, continues with our Raw women's roster. We've lost Nikki Cross, the pregnancy, Rhea Ripley, a torn Achilles. Oh my goodness. A 55, not a great match. It's okay. But this is not ideal. This is not ideal at all, because I'm sure, as you can tell at this point, the reason we put this tag team match together was you pretty much figured Liv Morgan was going to be the one taking the fall here, and she was. Bayley gets the pin. But you knew that we were working towards a match, probably in some scenario, with either this one and this one, this one and this one, or all three, right? Well, that's not going to happen, because Rhea Ripley has a torn Achilles, and I can already tell you without even seeing it, she's going to be out a long time. So our women's championship is clearly going to have to be vacated. So for all these, I was so excited with the Roman Reigns stuff. I was so excited with the start of our King of the Ring. Now we have to figure something out on the fly, because we had some big plans in place. But those are going to have to be changed because Rhea Ripley's out with a torn Achilles. Brutal. Just brutal. Well, Rhea Ripley might have benefited from being the Flavor of the Month, but we'll see if she gets that bump when she returns to action, probably in a year. So we're going to look at that after the show. But now there is a big development with our Raw Women's Division. Remember, too, by the way, let's not forget this. Our champion, Bobby Lashley, has announced his retirement. So he's retiring once we hit July, like 2 months. He's out. And so Rhea Ripley, our Raw Women's Champion, is now going to be out of action for, again, perhaps a year. I don't even know. We'll see how long it is. But this is not good for Raw. Raw is in a very bad spot now. Do we need to take Roman Reigns to Raw? I don't know. Because Raw is oh, man. Just when things were going really well, this is deflating. Because we had some plans. I'm not going to spend too long on this. This video is going to be long. But I don't even know what to say. You guys leave your comments, what you think. I don't know. We'll talk about this in the recap video when we do our June recap and talk about kind of what we have ahead. But our Raw Women's Champion's out for a while. Thanks, Tyson Kidd. I appreciate the knowledge. But, yeah, it sucks. Oh, no. Well, look at this. Sasha gets some heat backstage because it felt like it was her mistake to get Rhea Ripley hurt. Oh, no. This is just... Well, I should have just made this entire show the King of the Ring, because one decision ruins everything. And as we saw, not only is Rhea Ripley out for a long time, Sasha getting some heat, and maybe Sasha was at fault here. So we've got a mess to work through with that. Wow. Just think, if I would have just left that match off this card, I don't even know. Look, we were working towards a big segment here too. Steve Austin, basically, he sees Big E and Drew McIntyre run into each other in the back. Big E's on Raw, Drew McIntyre's on SmackDown. Austin basically said, they're the future champs, and just kind of one of those where you get all the really big baby faces together. They have a nice little moment backstage. It gets an 80. It gets an 80, and I don't even I'm deflated at this point with everything we just had come out of this Rhea Ripley situation. But nonetheless, a great segment here. And yeah, I don't even know. Can Steve Austin throw me a Steve Weiser? I need it after that Rhea Ripley, Sasha Banks, and whatever the hell else we got going on right now. Unbelievable. Well, we go to the semifinals, and as you can see, our finals halfway set. Daniel Bryan defeats Seth Rollins 13-40 by submission, a 78, a really good match here, as you would expect. Just great performance from both of these guys. If you look at the notes we had, we wanted this one to be called in the ring. Really didn't add a lot more than that. But Daniel Bryan has made it to the King of the Ring finals, getting the win over Seth Rollins. So that is at least a positive on this show. I know what you're thinking. Like, why am I so upset just about the Raw Women's Championship? But I had a big idea in mind for that, and now we're not going to be able to use it. So that's all right. We got to stay focused here. Task at hand. Daniel Bryan's in the King of the Ring finals in a great match against Seth Rollins. Who will Daniel Bryan face? We'll get to that in just a minute. Before we do, we get a video recapping what happened with Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio, of course, on our most recent episode of Raw. It was Randy Orton beating Rey Mysterio in the main event, and then afterwards, vintage Randy Orton, who just completely snapped and used the punt, the RKO, all that good stuff to take out Mysterio before Dominic and others came out to run Orton off. But the storyline continues. If if you've been watching the videos, it's what is Randy Orton up to? Well, we still don't know, but we know that Randy Orton left Rey Mysterio laying out and just a vicious attack from the Viper, the Apex Predator, and so we'll see what comes of that. But this is a little highlight package for that. And who will Daniel Bryan face in the King of the Ring finals? It's going to be AJ Styles. AJ Styles with a phenomenal forearm gets the win over Cesaro in 10:28. I made this a little bit shorter intentionally because we remember what was the thing. Mustafa Ali attacked Cesaro after the quarterfinal match, so we kind of played that up here. It was Cesaro coming out, not at full strength. Could he defy the odds, defeat AJ Styles, someone as phenomenal, pun intended, as AJ Styles? Turns out he could not. So it is AJ Styles advancing against, really, by the hands of not being able to face a full-strength Cesaro. But nonetheless, a great match here, another good one, and that does set up our finals. Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles. It is set for who will be the 2021 King of the Ring. So that's what we know, and we'll get to that match in just a second. Before we get there, we have another match to get to, and before that, the New Day backstage with a promo, cutting it on this big championship match they're going to have coming up next. It is the New Day against the Street Profits and the Usos for the undisputed tag team titles. Not surprised here. The New Day always entertaining, and they send some quality entertainment with a 74. Good promo here, and let's see who wins this big triple threat match for the undisputed tag team championships. And in a 63, it is the Usos picking up the win over the Street Profits and the New Day. 16-36, Jey Uso gets the pin on Xavier Woods, and the Usos are now the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. Kofi off his game a bit. That's not ideal, but that's okay. A lot of good stuff here. Clearly the tag team bonus, which not surprised. All three of these are really experienced teams with good chemistry. So we put them all together. I would have probably expected this to be a little bit better, honestly, from a 63. But I'll have to look into maybe why that is. I think it's just overness too. Like, we have to remember, WWE is a product in this, rated more on popularity than it is actual, just in-ring stuff at times. So, there's probably, we can still do a lot to get all three of these teams really over more. But the Usos are your champions. And so that is the setup here. So now the Usos are able to float between both brands. So that is something to keep in mind here as we move forward. But of course, we also know Roman Reigns is the Universal Champion. The Usos are the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions. There's a lot of gold in the tribe at this point. So the tribe has a lot of championships at their disposal right now. So the Usos come out on top against the Street Profits, and probably at some point did so by nefarious means. But nonetheless, they are the champions, and we will see what is going to happen here moving forward with the Undisputed Tag Team titles in the WWE, because it will be something where we will now see the Usos on both shows at times. So we'll see how that unfolds. They're the champions. And before we get to our main event, we get a segment with Steve Austin and Edge. Edge is back, and he tells Steve Austin that he is healed and ready to return to the ring, and Austin says he's got plans for him. Now, the setup here, as we know, on our most recent episode of Raw, we were informed by Austin that Edge had suffered a minor injury at a house show. So this is sort of playing off of that with Edge returning and now saying that, hey, he's back. He's ready to go again. He wasn't able to compete last week, but he's ready to go. And Austin says he has plans for him. So we'll see what those plans are. But it does seem like, at least right now, Edge will be back in action. So that's a good segment with these two. 82, nice rating here. And now that leads us into crowning a King of the Ring for 2021. And in a terrific match, it is Daniel Bryan becoming the 2021 King of the Ring. Gets the win over AJ Styles, 17:56, the running knee. Daniel Bryan is your King of the Ring, a 79 here. So we'll take it. Again, I would have loved to see it in the 80s, but we'll take it at 79. It's a really exceptional match. I mean, look, it really was. Like, this was the setup to get to these two. I figured this would probably be the match that would give us the best rating, although I'm sure we could have put Seth in here and probably interchanged it, and I think you would have had the same, very similar situation. But either way, I knew I wanted to get to this match, and this is what we got to. So it is Daniel Bryan winning the King of the Ring tournament. Here's how we sort of set it up. Called it in the ring. We wanted to basically do a slow build, working to the big finish, so we used slow build for that. But it worked. 17:56. So Daniel Bryan, 3 matches. AJ Styles, 3 matches. That's a pretty lengthy ones at times, too. Although AJ's match against Cesaro, as we saw, was not as long because of Cesaro's physical status after getting attacked by Mustafa Ali. But it's Daniel Bryan getting the win. He's the King of the Ring. And as we teased on Raw, that sets up our champion. Our WWE champion, Bobby Lashley, said he was going to greet the winner of the King of the Ring. And that leads to a face-to-face here with Bobby Lashley, Daniel Bryan, another light blue, our second of the night. We start the show with a big light blue with Roman Reigns in the 100. We end the show with the light blue with Lashley and Daniel Bryan face-to-face. So we'll take that. That's a nice bookend for the show. Great chemistry, Bobby Lashley and MVP. We know that already. Both of these two, I think, just having them together, as you can see, clearly we're heading towards something with Bobby Lashley and Daniel Bryan. That is where we're at with the King of the Ring winner, Bryan. Bobby Lashley has been looking for competition. He said he would greet the winner. He did just that. So this is your setup now moving forward. We've got a lot to build on now off of this pay-per-view, but it is Bobby Lashley greeting the winner, and so clearly we are on a collision course with Bobby Lashley and Daniel Bryan. So that is King of the Ring. Let's see what we get overall as a show. We get an 82, just easily our best show thus far we've had on this save. A terrific show overall. We know we've got some of these growth restricted and all that. We discussed that in the previous, but we increase our popularity in 21 regions. No surprise, at 82, far and away our best show of the save thus far, and I'm glad about that because we were very tight with our storylines. We wanted to set it all up here. That's what we did, and unfortunately, as we know, we got some issues coming out of this. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do with Rhea Ripley. We've just, yeah, we got to figure that out, and we'll just go right to it. So I don't want to just move past King of the Ring just yet, because I think we should, be able to bask in the glory of this 82 rating. It's our best show, and we put a lot of good stuff together. It's a long show, but we had a lot of segments that had a lot of purpose to them, and as we know, the big one right there with the 100 for Roman Reigns and Mick Foley. But hey, it's really good, and what we have to do here. Let's give a little speech. As we know, we have this option at this, and I'm telling you right now, you know where I'm headed with this. I mean, we've got to give Roman Reigns, we've got to praise our guy Roman Reigns for a great performance. I mean, why not, right? Because this guy had clearly the best performance of anyone on this show, and he didn't even wrestle. But he gets me a perfect segment. This guy gets all the praise. So we're going to give Roman Reigns some praise. Let's see who else we want to praise here. Actually, we have to, I think, as well. Was there anything else? I'm trying to think if anyone else sort of stood out. But Daniel Bryan just went through 3 matches. He put on three good matches in this show. So we also want to tell Daniel Bryan that he's awesome. So we have to make sure to do that. And then, I think it's going to be tricky because I'm trying to see which one we want to use. I don't think we want to tell anyone that they're worthless, but I think we do, and this may, I don't think there's going to be a backlash from this, but apparently there is some heat on Sasha Banks. Look, I haven't seen the video. I don't know if she hurt Rhea Ripley or not, but I want to try to give her a little bit of encouragement based on, clearly she's going to be down, right? So maybe we give her a little bit. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's give Rhea Ripley some encouragement because she's out with a torn Achilles. I'm sorry, Sasha Banks. We'll get to you afterwards, but we gotta cheer up Rhea Ripley because she's now out with a torn Achilles. So that's what we're gonna do with our speeches. Roman Reigns happy, Daniel Bryan also happy, Rhea Ripley happy. We knew that, so that's what we're looking at there. So let's see if we have anything to work with, any big news items, and we're also gonna jump into the Rhea Ripley thing after that. And now let's jump quickly into the injury status for Rhea Ripley. I called it, right? Like after those speeches, I tried to give her encouragement, but I told you, out of action for around a year. My goodness, 1 year. Ridiculous. So if we look at, this is not great. Returns in 11 months, 3 weeks. So yes, she is basically out a year. Everyone sigh along with me. So Rhea Ripley's out for the year. We have to completely take her out of all of our plans that we had, and we had some big ones. We've got to take her out of those plans. We'll get more into that as we move along, and I think we'll obviously have some discussions about this in our wrap-up video for June. That'll be the next video in the series. It's just a lot to digest there because we were really excited about what we were building towards with this, but it just is not going to work out. Rhea Ripley, out of action for a year. A couple other notes. Eric Bischoff has decided to retire. As I noted in one of the previous episodes, I did try to get Bischoff as perhaps one of the GMs, but once I realized he was retiring, we decided to pivot and turn to both Steve Austin and Mick Foley. That is what we know. Our women's champion is out. And, King of the Ring, we hit goal with this show. Of course we did. But the big story is right here. Rhea Ripley is out injured. And that is something that we are going to have to deal with on the next episode and for many episodes after that, because we've now got to reshuffle some things on Raw because this is less than ideal. So that is to set up a great King of the Ring pay-per-view overall. Unfortunately, our champion on Raw, our women's champion, is now out for an entire year. So we have to work around that. But either way, a great King of the Ring, and we'll reflect on that a little bit more in the next video, which will be sort of a wrap-up from June. We'll look at some of the business items, all those different things. We'll look at some of, Rhea Ripley's situation. We'll kind of make it more of a free-flowing type of episode, that won't be necessarily just structured around Raw or SmackDown. But that'll be kind of a buffer one heading into kicking off our next sort of pay-per-view cycle, which will be SmackDown pay-per-view, Great American Bash. So it'll be, next up will be the sort of recap video for June. So I hope you enjoyed the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and thanks for all the great feedback. And be sure to subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. I appreciate all the great feedback thus far on the series, and this was our first pay-per-view, so hopefully everyone, enjoyed it. And I know this was a little bit longer than most of the videos I put up, but it was a pay-per-view. We wanted to spend a little more time diving into it, and of course, it was a much bigger show. But we did have to stop along the way to marvel at Roman Reigns and to be completely just deflated by Rhea Ripley's situation. So we'll get more into that on the next episode. But that was the 21 King of the Ring. And up next will be the June recap video as we look at different business items, booking, all that sort of stuff.